What could you go home with?
Well, if you're in here listening to my spiel about Investigator's silver project in South Australia and a few other things, you've got the opportunity to take away a $650 silver ingot, half a kilo of silver.
And we're not going to tell you how that's going to happen, but you do need to be here at 9:15 in the morning. So you're producing this? Where's this come from?
No, so we're an exploration company with a silver project. I've got somebody who produced this for us, but in the not too distant future, we hope to produce our own. So.
And I'm noticing that it's wrapped in plastic. Why is it wrapped in plastic?
Just so my fingerprints aren't on it. It also oxidises, and a bit like, you know, your silverware at home, you've got to clean it every now and then, but this one's bright and shiny. So,
what can we do with that once we win it?
Well, take it home and put it in your safe, because last year this was only worth about $400. This year it's worth $650. So if you're on the silver train, it's heading this direction.
Andrew, thank you. We look forward to the 9:15 tomorrow morning. Okay, and that will be a bit of fun, won't it? Don't tell any of them out there, because that way we'll be in here and we'll increase our chances, and that we like. We can tell them to come in at 9:20. That's probably the way to go. At least I see half of it. Right. 999. And first up of those 9 is a fellow that I know very well, David Tata. He's Australian junior explorer searching deep undercover, being followed into by majors into greenfield terrains in search of the next major mineral discovery with huge upside for everyone. And they're led today, as they were since 2021, by this man. He's a scientist. He's the MD of Strategic Energy Resources. Would you please make welcome Dr. David Tata.
Thank you, Christina, and thanks everyone for coming back in so promptly after afternoon break. SCR has a bold vision, and that's to be leaders in undercover exploration, with a mission of discovery the next nickel, copper or gold opportunity within Australia. Yes, it's bold. Yes, it's a big strategy, one you're more likely to hear with a major. But with our science-driven approach to exploration, which means constantly challenging those exploration models which are fixed in everyone's minds, we believe we're on the right path to be specialists in undercover exploration. Quickly, let's look at the team. Invested, energetic, understand the vision, backing it as much as we can. We have a top 20, which is held by 60% of shareholders, which we all know they're stable, and in this current environment, any exploration success we're going to have, share price will go north. On your right-hand side, you'll see an overview of the projects. Now, you can't be a project generator without having lots of projects. The goal is that each project is at a different stage and in the exploration cycle. And in order for us to drill on one, it may take up to 2 years to prepare it to get to drilling, which means you've got to have the next project coming behind you. Today, in this short 10-minute presentation session, I'm going to focus on our ISA Undercover initiative. That's ISA North and Kenobi projects only. You'll see we've got a farm-in and joint venture agreement with Fortescue Metals. We've also got an evolution option deal, which I'm not going to talk about today. If you head to our website or the ASX website, you'll see a full presentation with a description of those. We've also got proposed drill programs at South Cobar and a geophysical survey at Mundy. So there's a lot going on. I'm not going to get across it today. What we will focus on today is the ISA Undercover initiative, which is our Northwest Queensland projects. Okay, let's step back a second and look at our strategy. How do we get to the point of being a project generator? Well, it all begins with how we generate our projects. We take the free data that's commonly available by Geoscience Australia or each of the states and territory, distill that data and look for the spots, the blind spots. Where are there no competitors? Where are we out in the open? Where are we undercover? So we're looking deep. Take that data and then we reference it against known mineral exploration deposits. So the flagship assets we're looking at today, ISA North, and our Kenobi projects, if you trace them back along the common fault, you'll find Ernest Henry and 29 Metals copper deposits. So there is some method in the madness. Once we take these large land holdings, which are out on their own, therefore they're greenfields project with sparse drilling, we then apply technical excellence to upgrade the geophysical data sets we've got. So we're trying to create the best picture we can of what lies in some cases 600 metres below the surface. And that takes engagement with industry experts, such as geophysics or machine learning analysts, to try and understand what is actually happening at depth. Because the most expensive part of greenfields is drilling. We want to make sure we've got a clearer picture as we can before we start drilling. We also at the same time leverage grants. Now, when you're going exploring in a greenfields region and a government department has identified that you're going somewhere which is a bit off ball, a bit weird, they really like throwing money at you because the opportunity is there to open up a whole region if a discovery is made. So in the last 3 years, we've been very successful and we've had 8 government grants. That's free money. And we're going to show you how we're going to spend some of that free money in the next couple of slides. But in order to keep the motion going, keep SER turning, we have to make sure that we return some funds to get back into the project generation phase and do the next project as it comes along. So we're very, very willing to accept JV partners. As I mentioned, we've already passed the test with Fortescue with one of our JVs. So let's have a look at ISA Undercover. So we're looking at 2 projects, regionally significant projects, northwest Queensland. We'll start with Kenobi, 1,800 square kilometres. Eastern succession, less than 30 drill holes. We've got a dominant position. And again, if you look at those lines on the map that we're showing here and trace it down, you can see how it intersects with Ernest Henry. Same rocks, 140 kilometres to the north. We take 200 kilometres to the northwest, we have our ISA North package. As you can see there, you follow the same fault lines, Gunpowder Fault back to 29 Metals, and True North Copper's Mount Oxide deposits. So there's a link. Now, where you can see the change in colour scale in this map is where the easy stuff, the outcrop finishes, and things get difficult, competitors for us get less, prospectivity does not decrease. So let's start with Kenobi. When we first took hold of Kenobi, it was a single tenement, small, high-grade hit, Lucky Squid project. And you can see some of the intersections there. 17 metres at 6.75, 15 metres at 9. If it was closer to surface, if it was 200 kilometres to the south, this had already been mined. But it's deep. No one likes deep up in this end of the world. So we're able to have this asset and then do our own form of exploration, which is tying these 2 drill intersections together, which we did, 6 metres at 12. But we still were unable to convince the market that there's worth continuing exploration in this region. So we did what we do, science-driven exploration. We started looking around, we started tying it back to the major faults and controlling structures to the south, ended up picking up a broader 1,800 square kilometre tenement package, leverage from government funding, go back in there, drill the Kalaka hole in 2021. And you can see from this intersection, it is low grade, but 132 metres nickel in this area of the world is absolutely unheard of. Changed the total focus of the project, the prospectivity of the region, flipped our understanding on its head, convinced the department at that point that we're onto something different. This is the chance for New World Metals up in North Queensland. Just this year, got another grant, 275K, to go back in, follow up on that nickel. We know more about what's happening subsurface. We know more about how to target what we think is high grade nickel. We're going back there, we are drilling. ISA North, as I mentioned, 200 kilometres northwest of Kenobi. Again, following it back to some major structures. You've got the 29 Metals, as I've already mentioned. This project we identified as part of our project generation. At the time, Newcrest held the project. We convinced Newcrest that we are competent in exploring undercover, that we've got the right tools and the management to go about and do this job properly. They were being hindered at the time by some land access issues, so we convinced them that it's worth us exploring. We managed to take it on, got it for a first right of refusal and an NSR at the end of it. This project is a high quality project that was part of Newcrest's Tier 1 discovery program up in this region. They put 4 targets, 5,000 plus metres into this project before they walked away because of land access. We picked it up, reprocessed the geophysics up there, and we're starting now to put together a drill program that'll see us up in this neck of the woods later on this year. As I said, greenfields, you're out on your own. There's not too many competitors when you can pick up such a large land holding without anyone else around you. We were quite happy to see Fortescue now change their mind and head up this way as well. We have Anglo-American up there, Rio Tinto. So we've gone from being up in this region on our own to now having some serious majors interested in the project. So I've only mentioned just a few of the possible drill programs for occurring for a small company like us. In this presentation, I've touched on Kenobi, ISA North. As I said, head to our market announcement today. You'll see an update on our South Cobar project, a Mundy Greenfields project, and 2 possible drill programs that'll happen that does not cost the company a single cent at Mile Creek and at South Cobar. So in summary, if you're looking for a competent management team, diligent use of funds, huge exploration upside, ASX, listed SER, head to our website, check us out. Thanks.
Well done, David. Thank you very much, sir. You can take that lapel mic back. I think someone else will be swapping through. These guys are powering through this afternoon. Magmatic Resources Ltd is a copper and gold explorer. They have an advanced portfolio in the East Lachlan region here in New South Wales. Now, very recently, they have discovered a large-scale copper-gold porphyry system directly north of North Parkes, which is Australia's biggest porphyry copper mine. You're pretty happy about that, aren't you? That's right. This happy fellow, his name is Adam McKinnon, Dr. Adam McKinnon, excuse me. He's the MD, and he's here to tell us more about the opportunity in this project.
Yeah, we'll get straight into it. I only got 10 minutes. Just starting off with a little bit on the corporate. We're a moderate-sized junior, you would say. Current market cap, approaching that $40 million mark. We've got a fairly tight shareholder register, directors, major holders, but also Goldfields in there at 6.3%. Now, all of our projects actually came out of Goldfields, so that's why we have that shareholding there. So Magmatic has 3 key projects. We are entirely New South Wales based. We're based in the central west Lachlan region of New South Wales, and we're in what you would consider world-class porphyry terrain. We've obviously have Cadia, Australia's largest gold mine, just down the road, and North Parkes and Cow mines, also both world-class mines. Our Wellington North project actually surrounds Australia's most recent large-scale porphyry gold copper discovery at Boda, and they're up to nearly 15 million ounces equivalent. So that's pretty exciting. We also have the Parkes project, which is a very prospective for Tomingley style mineralisation, just to the south of Tomingley. But the project we're really excited about and has generated a lot of interest over the last little while is the Corvette prospect. Now, we're currently drilling at Corvette, a part of the Mile project, and we have hit some of the largest copper intercepts really anywhere in Australia this year. So it's generated a lot of interest, and it's very exciting for our team. Just on why would a company like us want to explore for porphyries? We know a lot has been made at conferences like this of the potential shortfall that we've got coming in copper supply, especially with the electrification and net zero targets. Porphyries provide 60 to 70% of all copper produced in the world, and they generally can be quite large. 100 million to many billion tons. I mentioned Boda before. We have a local example of what a significant porphyry discovery can do for a company. In the case of Boda in 2019, they added $205 million on their discovery hole in a period of 2 weeks, and that's something we're trying to replicate. The other key thing for us is we think New South Wales and also Australia can play a bigger role in supplying those copper needs. When we look down the list of the top 13 producers of copper in the world, we can see that Australia currently only produces around 4%. The other key thing to note there is just the number of what we would consider high risk jurisdictions that our copper supply is actually coming from. So continuing on, so we're located, we couldn't be in a better location for both exploration and mining. We've got North Parkes around 60 kilometres down the road. North Parkes is Australia's largest copper dominant porphyry. We're also near the Tomingley mine, about 30 kilometres away. We consider New South Wales to be a very safe, very stable jurisdiction. And what's been really encouraging in New South Wales this year in particular, we've had a big run of mine approvals by the New South Wales government. There's actually been 4 hard rock mines approved in our region recently. The other key thing about the Mile project, it's surrounded by some very big hitters. Our Mile tenement is surrounded by FMG. And then off to the north of us, Inflection Resources has actually just done a significant joint venture of up to $145 million with AngloGold Ashanti. In terms of diving down into a bit of geology now, we're at the northern end of the Junine Narromine Belt, and we really went into Mile targeting a North Park style discovery. When we look at the geochemical basement footprint of North Parks and compare it to Mile, you can see very similar multi-kilometre scale footprints. And it's not just the geochemistry, it is it's the geology and the age of the rocks. They're identical. Now, North Parks to date, they've discovered at least 22 porphyry systems. At the moment, we're exploring only one, and we think while the results at our Corvette prospect have been very encouraging, we actually think there's significant potential throughout our other 250 square kilometre tenement package there. So we started drilling in July last year and basically haven't really stopped for the last 9 to 10 months. The very first metre of our very first hole went into copper mineralisation, and all of our 11 drill holes since have hit significant mineralisation. We are drilling some of the deepest holes for a junior in New South Wales and in Australia. And recently in hole 22, we actually drilled a 1,200 metre hole, 875 metres of which was mineralised. So these are some very, very large intercepts. I guess the other encouraging thing is that within these larger intercepts, we are getting significant zones of moderate to high grade with equivalent grades to North Parks. Furthermore, the Corvette prospect is currently open in all directions and at depth, and we're still drilling. So we're drilling as we speak, and very excited to see what we produce going forward. This is a schematic cross-section. What I like to point out on this particular section is just the scale. We're talking about up to 600 metres wide, up to 800 metres deep that we know about, and this whole system goes for at least 1.2 kilometres in length. At the moment, those dimensions are only defined by where we have drill holes. So we are very, very encouraged by the scale of this system. The other thing that's really exciting is a lot of our grade we've hit to date occurs immediately below the cover. So on the left-hand side here and in the centre, you'll see copper and gold in the first 150 metres below the cover. Those are a very significant intercepts, and you can see nearly every part of those drill holes are mineralised. The other key thing, as I mentioned, we're looking at multi-kilometre scale of mineralisation. I make the point here that that shape is basically defined by where we've got drill holes. If you look outside of that shape, there's really no drilling. We really think this system's going to grow very rapidly. So just in summary, I pose a question there, is this Australia's next major copper discovery? We really think this has tier 1 world-class potential. We've already demonstrated that it has a very large scale. We're currently drilling. Everything remains open. We haven't closed it off in any direction to date. And we really think there is massive potential for large amounts of copper in this system. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well done. I like this. You boys are all on time, in fact, under time. So I'm very, very impressed. With that said, let's push on to number 3. Joining us now on stage is Greenstone Resources CEO and Managing Director Chris Hansen. Greenstone is a gold exploration and development company with new high-grade gold discoveries. He's looking forward to telling you about their aggressive exploration being undertaken at their Burbanks Gold Project, as well as the company's developing portfolio of projects across Western Australia. Please make him welcome.
Thank you. Now, having sat through hundreds of such presentations myself, I think it's important that we provide some context on what really differentiates Greenstone from the rest. So why is Greenstone special when there are 755 ASX-listed mining companies, of which 175 are gold explorers or gold developers, but only 11 have undeveloped high-grade resources greater than 250,000 ounces, and only one is located in the epicentre of the Australian gold industry, and that is our flagship Burbanks Gold Project. This is why Greenstone is special. Burbanks is located in the epicentre of the Australian gold industry, surrounded by major and mid-tier miners and supported by a network of existing infrastructure. Drilling is currently underway with an updated resource expected in the next 3 to 4 weeks, leveraging off over 10,000 metres of drilling that was completed late last week. Importantly, less than 30% of the Burbanks system has been explored down to a depth of 500 metres. Greenstone also holds a portfolio of regional gold assets, and we also hold a 50% share in a large battery metals project for which an updated scoping study is currently underway, and we're in discussions with our joint venture partners surrounding a consolidation and an IPO. Now, all of our projects are located in the Goldfield region of WA. Our flagship Burbanks asset is located just a short 30-minute drive from Kalgoorlie. Historically, Burbanks produced over 421,000 ounces at 10.9 grams per tonne from largely the upper 140 metres. And up until about 18 months ago, nobody had drilled a drill hole here below 250 metres. Burbanks has a current resource of 280,000 ounces, and with that phase 1 drill campaign completed last week, we expect to have that resource out very shortly. Phillips Find is our second gold asset and is located just a short drive northwest of Coolgardie. And like Burbanks, it has a long history of high grade and shallow production, but also remains underexplored at depth. Historically, Phillips Find has produced 33,000 ounces from 3 relatively shallow open pits to a depth of 75 metres. We're currently drilling at Phillips Find right now, testing those down dip extensions beneath those 3 historic pits I mentioned. Now, moving entirely away from gold and not to overly complicate the story, Greenstone also holds a 50% share in the Mount Thirsty joint venture, which is located north of Norseman and hosts a large copper, nickel, manganese deposit. Mount Thirsty is uniquely positioned to potentially provide a sustainable and ethical source of cathode precursor to the growing EV battery market, with the deposit containing all 3 of the necessary elements and the right ratios to produce such a product. 2 weeks ago, we announced a materially larger resource here, which is now underpinning an updated scoping study, which is currently underway. I'm a firm believer that base metals and precious metals don't belong in the same company, and as such, discussions are ongoing around a consolidation and potential IPO of this Mount Thirsty joint venture asset. So just to set the scene, since resuming exploration 18 months ago at Burbanks, we've very much adopted a revised strategy here, focused on exploration and resource growth. At Burbanks, we've very much developed a track record of exploration success and resource additions, with the results to date exceeding all of our expectations. I would now like to share with you that journey, where we started 18 months ago, where we are now, and where we're heading in the future. What we're looking at here is a long section of the Burbanks Gold Project. From left to right across the screen is a strike horizon of around 5.5 kilometres. 18 months ago when we started, all Burbanks had was a long history of very high grade production, totalling over 420,000 ounces at 10.9 grams, as well as a small JORC compliant resource you see there in the darker green colour. Over the next 9 months, we drilled over 10,000 metres of drilling. We doubled the resource to 278,000 ounces, and we extended the mineralised strike horizon by over 2 kilometres. However, much of that drilling was too widely spaced for us to bring into a JORC compliant resource. As such, we utilised this wide space drilling to support a JORC compliant exploration target, which can be seen in the lighter green colour. This exploration target has a range of between 215 and 330,000 ounces, and was the focus of the phase 1 drill campaign completed last week, and is illustrated by the blue dashed box you see behind me. Very important to note that this exploration target does not include any of the areas in the orange and the green highlighted behind me. There is still a lot of unfinished business here. Late last week, we completed that 10,000 metre drill campaign, and this drilling will form the basis of the updated resource estimate expected in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Some of the better intercepts out of that program included 5 metres at 30.5 grams, and as you can clearly see, these are not one-off isolated drill hits. This project has a track record of adding ounces, and we're only just getting started here. Phases 2 and 3 will test the true potential of this asset. Now, quickly moving to Phillips Fine, as per Burbanks, I'd like to show you the past, the present and the future of this asset. Again, we're looking at a long section from left to right is around 1,200 metres along strike. Historically, this asset has produced 33,000 ounces from 3 separate open pits. We've subsequently leveraged off some limited drilling we completed last year, as well as a large historical database for an initial resource here of 54,000 ounces. However, importantly, we've very much adopted a whole system approach to exploration here, and we're not looking at each one of these open pits in isolation, but in fact looking at them in conjunction with the potential for a consolidated underground operation here. Importantly, only 40% of that mineralised strike horizon above 300 metres has been tested. We have subsequently defined a drill campaign which is currently underway, targeting high-grade extensions at depth. The historical intercepts at depth are impressive and include intercepts like 3 metres at 18.7 grams per tonne. With drilling now underway, we look forward to keeping shareholders updated as we progress with this exploration program. And now, I guess something completely different. Here's the Mount Thirsty project. The Mount Thirsty deposit hosts the cobalt nickel manganese deposit, which is part of the joint venture with ASX listed Conoco. The project is focused on providing a long-term and ethical supply of cobalt and nickel battery minerals to support the continued decarbonisation of our economy. And I say ethical, as not many people are aware that much of the world's cobalt supply comes out of the Dominican Republic of Congo in Africa, which has a track record of supplying unethical supply, sometimes utilising child labour as young as 6 years old. Mount Thirsty is uniquely positioned containing cobalt, nickel and manganese to potentially provide a sustainable and ethical supply of cobalt precursor. Previous studies had focused on the use of atmospheric leaching methods, which resulted in lower metal recoveries, lower product payabilities and depressed project economics. We have subsequently identified 3 principal project optimisations for the updated scoping study, which is currently underway. The first optimisation for the updated scoping study includes a materially larger resource, which we announced just 2 weeks ago now, increasing by 146%. The impact of a larger resource may mean a longer mine life and a reduced stripping ratio. The second point on the larger resource is that Mount Thirsty hosts the second highest cobalt nickel ratio for comparable Australian deposits. This is important for the updated scoping study as we're looking to produce an 811 cathode product here. The second major optimisation is a change in the processing methodology to high pressure acid leaching. Based on comparable deposits, we hope to increase nickel recoveries from 22% to upwards of 90%. Higher recoveries means more metal, which potentially means more revenue. This high pressure acid test work is currently underway as we speak. The final major optimisation is the product produced. 5 years ago, end users were happy to accept intermediary products. However, with the rise of electric vehicles, consumption habits of our consumers have changed and they're demanding a high value cathode precursor product. These precursors attract a significant pricing premium, up to 50% higher than previously envisaged. So as you have guessed, we have plenty of material news flow coming, including continued gold assays from drilling at Burbanks and Phillips Fine, the resource update in 3 to 4 weeks, and the scoping study at Mount Thirsty. If you like today's presentation and what we've got to say, there's a QR code here to scan and follow us on all of our social media networks. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That's a great addition at the end. They're very clever. Well done. ASX listed Dundas Minerals holds an 1,800 square kilometre tenement. It's positioned in the highly prospective Southern Albany Fraser Origin in Western Australia. So updating us on the company's exploration progress, would you please welcome their Managing Director, Shane Volk.
In Western Australia, between the Yilgarn Craton and the Eucla Basin, sits the Albany Fraser Origin. Stretching from the edge of the Great Victoria Desert to Albany in the state southwest, much of the origin remains underexplored. Gradually, however, the Albany Fraser has been revealing its closely guarded mineral wealth. In 2005, discovery of the multi-million-ounce Tropicana gold deposit thrust the origin into the international spotlight. And then in 2012, the incredibly rich Nova nickel deposit was found. Now, a decade later, Dundas Minerals has commenced the search for the next company making discovery in the Albany Fraser. Dundas holds 12 contiguous licenses in an area not explored since before the world-class Nova discovery. This is 1,200 square kilometres of highly prospective tenements. Dundas is already narrowing down the search space and identifying priority drilling locations, using best practice geoscience and cutting-edge technology that was not available to previous explorers. Dundas Minerals is in an enviable position for exploration success. You can join the search. Become a shareholder. Dundas Minerals. Be part of the discovery.
Okay, so that's our wonderful Albany Fraser origin tenement position that you can see on the screen now. As we said in the video, 1,800 square kilometres. Dundas Minerals were an early mover in this region of the origin. We had the pick of the area when we secured these tenements in 2020, 2021. A wonderful position, 140 kilometres out of the port city of Esperance in Western Australia, south of Norseman, and also due south of the wonderful Nova nickel copper deposit in WA. We're all on Crown land, so all of the land there where our tenements are is government land. We're not competing with pastoralists or other landowners. And importantly, we're outside the Dundas Nature Reserve, so we don't have any impediments again in exploring in the reserve. The tenements that are thatched at the top in the reserve, they're not granted yet, and they can be granted over time. On the right-hand side, we have another tenement, our Triton Gold Project, and what a wonderful time to have a gold project. Gold is $3,000 an ounce, as you would know, 2,000 US, and that tenement was just granted a few weeks ago. So we're looking forward to doing some exploration in that area, probably later in 2023, perhaps 2024. Now, the exploration environment that we're working in, for those of you that are not familiar with Western Australia, we're dealing in, we're exploring undercover. So we're looking under sand. The cover is between sort of 5 to 30 metres, sometimes 60 metres in depth. The vegetation is mallee. In the images there, you can see that the mallee has actually been burned. Very severe bushfires went through the area in 2021. Fortunately for us, that's allowed us access that previous explorers have never had. We've been able to move through the bush quite quickly and quite freely, and that has helped us in our geophysical programs that we've conducted. There's very little outcrop. We have found some outcropping rocks over to the northeast of the tenements, and some of those are mafic, ultramafic rocks, and they're the exact sort of rock types we're looking for. And these are the rock types that can host, of course, copper, nickel, gold mineralisation. Undercover exploration has had some amazing success. And these are some of the deposits that have been found by junior explorers here in Western Australia recently. Chalice, Galileo, going back to Sandfire Resources as well. So it is challenging to work undercover, but the rewards are tremendous. And if you're the first mover into an area like Dundas Minerals are, then you have the potential in these underexplored areas to find these types of deposits. The search, systematic and disciplined, and it's all about the geology, the geophysics, and of course, persistence and drilling. In terms of the regional geology, this is important. We've selected an area that is on the contact between the older Archean and the younger Proterozoic rocks. As I've said, the previous exploration in this area was before the Great Nova nickel copper mine was discovered just to our north. So there was no real exploration in this area since the Nova discovery, and we're the first group that is in there. The deepest drill hole in the area that we're working is remarkably, it's 64 metres. So it's barely gone through the sand and calcrete cover into the primary rock. So again, this is a great opportunity for us. Just zooming in a little bit on the regional geology, Geoscience WA has very limited information, detailed information in this area. We have some rock age dates, and these age dates sit both in those rock ages typical of the Tropicana gold deposit and also of the deposit down there at Nova. So we've got both rock types within the area that we're searching. Geophysics, we've spent care, time to acquire these very important data sets. The first thing we did was we flew an electromagnetic survey. This survey gives us a picture below the surface of the conductivity, and we're looking for areas of heightened conductivity. Ground gravity survey, an 8-week program, 4,000 gravity stations, 2 gravity crews. But again, this is giving us a unique first time ever picture of what's happening below the surface, and we're looking for dense rock packages. So these mafic, ultramafic rocks have a density of 3.2, 3.4, but they can be shown up with these gravity surveys. So we spent the time to get that data together. Very close space magnetic surveys showing the rock trends as well. An aerial survey, 1,700 kilometres, line kilometres, and we patched this together with some other data that had been done by a couple of previous explorers to the south. But we have complete coverage now of the tenements, magnetics, gravity, electromagnetics, and this is allowing us to understand the geology for the first time in this area and then to plan our drilling based on that information. Drilling, we've completed 4 programs. These are highlighted by the circles here on the images. Programs are giving us an understanding of the geology, and what's interesting is the government, the Western Australian government, has co-funded 2 of these programs to an amount of $400,000. And this is again to encourage us and to help us explore in this underexplored area. 3 of the programs have actually surprised us, and they delivered very high assays for rare earth elements. And it's not something you expected, but what we found at Dundas is we're surrounded by rare earths explorers. Some of them have presented here in the last couple of days, and this presents an opportunity for us in terms of taking advantage of that situation. But just to finish off, our next lot of drilling programs are coming from a soil survey that we've completed. We've done 3 areas indicated here, areas 1, 2 and 3. These are areas over these dense mafic, ultramafic rock intrusions, and again we're targeting copper, nickel, gold mineralisation. Soil sampling can be an underappreciated exploration tool, but those of you that perhaps were shareholders in Sirius Resources will know that that discovery started with some soil anomalies and some soil sampling. So we're very excited about these results, which will come out end of June, early July, so not too far away. So as we said in the video, we'd love to have you on our exploration journey. We'd love to share our exploration success for you, and the best way to do that is to become a shareholder. Thank you. Thanks,
Good message. I know this man is a tap dancer, and I thought you'd have to tap dance your way off the stage just then. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Chrissy.
He is actually.
Thank
Get
you.
him a few drinks tonight. It's a good message. Right, American West Metals, where are you? Now, this is an exciting exploration company. They're focused on the discovery and development of major copper and zinc deposits in the Tier 1 jurisdiction of North America. This is their founder and their managing director, Dave O'Neill. Despite the baby face, he is a geologist with more than 20 years' experience. He's travelled all over the world, and today he's here to tell us why we should come on board with him. Please make him welcome.
This afternoon. So who are we? For those who don't know American West Metals, let me just get this going. Just a quick summary of who we are and a bit of an investment summary here. We are 3 assets in North America. The US and Canada has been a fantastic hunting ground for ASX companies lately. Fantastic jurisdictions to work in. We have 2 assets in Utah and 1 in Canada. So we have the West Desert polymetallic deposit very close to Bingham Canyon, which most people realise one of the biggest copper projects in the world. Copper Warrior is a sediment-hosted copper project, 15 kilometres from Utah's 2nd largest copper mine. And we have Storm Seal, which is effectively 2 projects in one. We have the Seal zinc deposit, zinc silver deposit, and Storm Copper. And I'll just focus on Storm Copper today. That's where we're working at the moment. That's where we see the value in the short term for American West and our shareholders. Existing resources as well, you can't, resources certainly underline any valuation on any company. We have the large polymetallic West Desert, recently JORC compliant resource issued earlier this year, and Seal is also a compliant resource, NI 43-101 Canadian. So existing metal in the ground is always going to add value. And grade is king, as people know. We've shown that the copper mineralisation at Storm can produce over 50% DSO product, which I'll talk to soon, which is very exciting for us, and one of the highest grade DSO projects globally for copper, which there aren't many of, by the way. Outstanding growth, like I said, we're drilling at Storm. We have the DSO study underway at Storm at the moment. We believe that the other 3 projects as well also have outstanding exploration upside and very large land holdings. And we've got a fantastic board and a very deep experience in developing mines, mid-tier companies, major companies, and also in exploration space as well with discovery history. And I'll move through this pretty quickly and get to Storm, the good stuff given the time, but this is what it looks like in terms of news flow for the next, this year at least. You can see it's very Storm-centric. That's good, so that's where we're drilling at the moment. That's where the work's going into. But also, we're not forgetting the other 2 projects. There's work going on, study work and optimisation work going on into those other projects, and we're likely to get down to Copper Warrior very shortly as well to do some RC drilling there. The key takeaways on this slide is, I guess, our fairly low market capitalisation based on the assets we have. We believe significant growth potential there, but also the cash position. We're well funded for the Storm program. A lot of that program is prepaid. That's the way it works in Canada, particularly in the Arctic. A lot of your costs are up front. So that's already sunk, so we're well capitalised to continue the program. So Storm, this is the RC rig in action. It's the first time I've used an RC rig in the Arctic, but it's going very well. Since we did a release yesterday, we've actually got 2 other drill holes to report on in the near future. Storm, I think it's worth spending a bit of time on this slide because a lot of Australians do not understand the Arctic, but really getting to Storm and Seal, it's actually easy to get into parts of Western Australia. We have a commercial flights to Resolute, which is northern Canada. Northwest Passage is ice-free during the summer, and we have about 56 ships servicing the archipelago during the summer months. So we're on the coast. Seal's essentially on the coast. Storm's about 20 kilometres inland. We have a very large land holding over 4,000 square metres, 120 kilometres of prospective strike. 2, like I said, Seal's an existing deposit, but Storm, is 2 types of copper has been discovered there. It's a historical mining district. Polaris and Nanoscivic base metal mines were operated for about 4 decades up in that part of the world. So I akin the area to an early Mount Isa. Discoveries are still being made, a lot of work to do as well. We have the option to earn 80% on the project as well through in-ground expenditure. We're probably 50% through that, but certainly next year we'll be complete that option agreement. So this is what it looks like. A lot of the work in the past has really identified significant near-surface mineralisation, and they're very distinct and different. You'll see that the 3 zones up there, all very close to surface. That's extremely high grade. And last year we drilled an exploration drill hole into a geophysical target, and we've nicked what we believe is a significant sedimentary strata-bound copper system at depth. This is what the near-surface mineralisation looks like. It covers over 40 hectares, which is significant. The average thickness out of 32 drill holes that have intersected this mineralisation is over 20 metres and over 2% copper. So that gives you a feel for the tenor of the ore there. We're currently drilling the 4100 zone. This is what the mineralisation looks like. Very clear, simple, and very amenable to DSO, and I'll talk to that in a second. So we're drilling out the 4100 zone. You can see it's quite flat. That's about 1 kilometre long by 400 metres, so it has significant scale. 9 out of 9 drill holes have hit copper. This is what it looks like. As you can see, the drilling we're doing is showing continuity of the ore. We've now identified it with the 9 holes over about 600 metres of strike and 300 metres across strike. You can see there the thicknesses are very thick. It's confirmed with historical drilling, and like I said, the tenor looks to be between 1.5% and 2.5% copper. So this would rank up there in terms of the top 10% quartile near surface open pittable copper deposits globally. like I said, we make a DSO, and this is really the penny drop moment for our American West. We put the core, we crushed it down to about an inch, we put it through a full-scale ore sorter, and we produced over 50% copper, 53% copper, pure chalcocite product, and then a mid-tier, which is 10%, and then waste. So this is a very low footprint, very low capital, fast-track production. There's no tailings dam, there's no processing plant. We believe that this is certainly a fast track for us to get this thing going. Permitting's already started. We've got a baseline environmental study happening in the summer this year, and we're doing further optimization work to really refine the process and do some balance between yield versus tonnages, etc., and grade. So lots of work to do there. But look, also, like I said, mentioned earlier, last year we drilled an exploration drill hole into a geophysical target, which is an EM plate, with a coincident gravity anomaly, and we intersected about 100 metres of mineralisation, disseminated chalcopyrite, a bit of vein-style chalcopyrite, also galena and pyrite, and in a bituminous carbonaceous unit. The significance of this is that this lies below that near surface mineralisation. The anomaly we drilled is over 5 kilometres long. The type of mineralisation suggests it's on the margin of the system, so we strongly believe that this may be the source of mineralisation to that near surface ore. You can see there's a couple of large faults. That's a graben. It's a bounding structure too. It fits the sedimentary copper model perfectly, where you have these large fault plumbing systems, low temperature, low pressure fluids coming up into these vuggy and bituminous kind of carbonates, and then precipitating copper mineralisation. So look, lots of work to do. This is the other part of the exploration that we're doing this year. We've just completed a gravity survey, and we hope to release that shortly. And based on that, we'll drill some of these other deep targets. So look, in summary, in the interest of time as well, I'll just wrap it up. But look, we believe that we have onto something very large here, and we have also a near surface potential, low cost, high margin potential with this near surface mineralisation as well. So we're working on the resource there. We hope to get the resource out sort of October this year, followed shortly by a scoping study on that DSO type material. So very exciting time for us. And look, if you want any more technical details, come past the booth, and I've got plenty of other stuff to show you. So thank you.
Was that your team timer out there, was it? The little buzz that went off, was that related to you?
One?
Pardon?
Was there a buzzer?
There was a bit of a buzzer going. There wasn't, eh? That's all right. You were focused. You're in the moment. And I was thinking again, I neglected to say to you, put your phones on silent. Killi Resources joining us on stage, taking position 6 in our 10-minute power session. They're a greenfields gold copper explorer operating in major mineral districts in both Queensland and WA. They're currently drilling a breccia pipe, which is an intrusive related gold system. You can ask the geologist more about this in a moment up in northern Queensland. That's the headline. The details, please welcome, as I said, the geologist. Her name is Kathryn Cutler, and she is the CEO of Killi. Please make her welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the introduction, Chrissy, and thank you to the RIU for hosting Killi this week. Killi is a mineral exploration company. We're focused on greenfields discoveries in 9 major gold and copper mineral provinces based in Australia. We listed on the stock exchange in February 2022, and we're trading under the code KLI. We raised $6 million on the back of the company 100% owning 4 belt scale projects in Western Australia and Queensland. You can read that in your own time. This is our corporate structure. So this is the Killi board. You'll recognise quite a few faces here. Richard Bevan, Greg Miles and Phil Warren make up the board of Killi. They were also the directors of Nimy Resources, which had the Nebo Babel nickel copper project at West Musgraves, which changed hands to Oz Minerals and is on its way back to BHP. I myself am an exploration geologist. My career is 16 years running so far. Generally worked in the gold industry in Australia on Australian assets for junior, mid-tier and major gold companies. And that's my forte: exploration, discovery and development of gold assets. Killi's got a reasonably tight corporate structure. We've only got 52 million shares on issue. Top 20 shareholders own 44% of the company, and we're currently in the midst of a rights issue for our existing shareholders, raising 1.4 million to extend our exploration programs in the Tanami and in Queensland. These are our 4 projects. The company's been exploring since we floated mainly in the Tanami. We are exploring for gold and rare earths in the Tanami of WA. We're 120 k's along strike from the Killi Newmont owned and operated 14 million ounce gold mine, and we're 55 k's away from the Browns Range rare earth mine, which is one of 3 operating rare earth deposits in Australia. Within 10 months of listing, we completed some extensive exploration programs on that ground. We generated 2 first pass gold targets that are Killi lookalike. From our air core drill program, we generated a rare earth anomaly in our soils. We also completed a deep stratigraphic drill hole, which identified the Dead Bullock Formation, which is the host sequence to the Killi gold mine, which is extremely positive from our perspective. We also intersected a 0.6 metre interval of semi-massive, massive pyrrhotite chalcopyrite sulfides, so visible copper mineralisation within a mafic unit within the Dead Bullock. And this is now the first recorded case of sulfide mineralisation in the Tanami region. These results are fantastic, and we're planning to continue exploring in the Tanami in the second half of 2023. But for the first half, we've really focused on our Queensland assets. And that's what I'm going to talk about mainly today. So last year, we started completing some work at Ravenswood North. This is kind of what it looks like. It's reasonably unassuming. This is where it's located. So Ravenswood North is located in northern Queensland at 60 k's inland from Townsville within the Charters Towers and Ravenswood districts. The tenement holding covers 660 kilometres squared of prospective ground. It's a great project. This area is well known for intrusive related gold systems, and that's what we're looking for on this ground. We've determined 2 prospects on our ground within the Ravenswood corridor, which is Rocky and West Branch. And that's where we've completed our work so far in the last 2022 campaign. Some of you won't know, especially if there's any West Australians here, you won't really know much about IRG deposits, but in northern Queensland, they're pretty common. Within 60 k's of our project, we've got 28 million ounces of gold endowment, and they're all within these intrusive related systems. They generally range from 100,000 ounces of endowment to 5 million ounces, which is the Kidston gold mine, which isn't very far up the belt from us. Along strike from our Rocky project, there is the Ravenswood gold mine, which is a large tonnage, low-grade 8 million ounce gold deposit. And there is the Mount Wright intrusive related rhyolite breccia intrusive pipe, which is 43 k's along strike. These systems are slightly different. They have, the 8 million ounces at Ravenswood is a very large endowment, but it exists with only a 3.8 kilometre squared intrusive complex, and the footprint of the mineralisation is only 900 metres by 600 metres. So it's quite a small zone to actually narrow in on. At Rocky, this is what we're looking for. It's an IRG. Now this diagram might be a little bit complicated, but what it's showing you is that we have a large granodiorite complex that we have identified. We have completed a heliborne VTEM survey, which we had processed, and that red zone that you can see surrounding in that circular feature is interpreted as the alteration halo to the 2 targets that have been generated. So the target 1 and target 2 are our intrusive targets that we're targeting currently. We managed to get on the ground at the end of last year and do the first 5 holes ever into this target. They all returned anomalous gold and silver, so we know we're in a gold mineralised granodiorite, which is a really exciting development. There was nothing there 12 months ago. We're currently completing an additional 6 RC holes and 2 diamond tails to specifically target these 2 targets generated. The West Branch project is in the north of the project. It's prospective of copper gold porphyry mineralisation. We were able to get on the ground. We completed some rock chip samples we collected. They returned results of 5 and 6% copper, 8 to 9 grams per tonne gold, and just under an ounce silver. We think we're in a porphyry system here. It requires a lot more work. The processing that we completed at Rocky, which generated a 3D system, we're going to also do that here to make sure that when we get a drill rig out there later in the year, that we'll be specifically targeting the best targets we've got. And lastly, I just want to cover off on our Mount Rawdon West project in Queensland also, because this is my pet favourite project. It's just been granted last year. It's 300 square kilometres of tenure, and the tenement covers the intersection of 2 major mineralising corridors. The main mineralising corridor from Mount Rawdon Gold Mine extends through the tenement, south to north, and cross-cutting that, you've got the Mount Perry Gold Copper Project, owned and operated by SolGold. At the intersection of those 2 features, we have an existing geochemical anomaly for copper, gold and moly. There's existing old workings on the tenement, big head frames from the old moly mines. And you can also see in the geophysics there, a lovely sort of enclave within the, or a circular feature within the magnetics. So we're planning to get on this ground in the next couple of months as well, to test, first off, repeat the geochemical results from historical explorers, which is not a lot. And also, what I haven't mentioned is that there's not one single drill hole on this tenement. So within this sort of area with this sort of mineral endowment, you would anticipate that there'd be something, but there's nothing. So this is our exploration pipeline. The next few months we'll continue our work in Queensland, targeting our porphyry and intrusive gold copper projects. Then we'll move back to the Tanami to follow up on our gold, rare earth and copper targets generated last year. So in summary, we have the projects and the ability to deliver something of scale. We're leveraged to multiple commodity markets with gold and copper. We have the right people in the team who are incentivised to deliver results. We're funded for the next year of exploration, and our market cap is currently poised for success. So if anyone has any further questions, please come by the booth and see us. Richard and I are both here.
Thank you. Perfectly timed. Right. Where are we up to now? We've got 2 to go, so 8 and 9 yet to go. I'm just reading some stats just to give us a bit of a breather for a second. Do you know it's day 130 of the year right now? 235 days to go. Anyone here having a birthday? Anyone at all? No, I won't bore you with the next statistic then. I will instead invite the next man up onto stage to join us. Alvo Minerals is a Brazilian-focused base and precious metals exploration company. They've discovered a district-scale opportunity in Brazil that's rich in copper, it's rich in zinc. This man is their managing director. He's joining us to present on the company's exciting recent findings and their active regional exploration program. Rob, it's over to you, sir.
Thanks, Chrissy. Good afternoon, everybody. Really pleased to be back at RIU and presenting the Alvo Minerals story. Disclaimers. Okay, in summary, Alvo is a Brazilian-focused copper, zinc, base metals explorer in the central part of Brazil. There's a few stories going around at the moment that are presenting here. It's becoming a really focused place for exploration in South America. We've got a small JORC resource that underpins our valuation, about 5 million tonnes at sort of 2.5% copper equivalent. But that's really the start of the story. It's not the end at all. We're a really small company, tight capital structure, got cash in the bank, really experienced management, and a great shareholding base. But the real key part is the active exploration that we're currently undertaking on site. We're one of the most active explorers out there, one of the juniors that has their own equipment that is every day generating new targets. The target we're looking for is called VMS, so volcanogenic massive sulfides. They're high grade, they're polymetallic, and when they occur in clusters. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that today as we go through, because I think it's an important part of what we do. And some of the results that we've had to date, I'm not sure if you can read them, but 36 metres at 4.2% copper equivalent is the headline. And that's really an example of what we're going. It's thick, it's high grade, it's from surface. But as I said earlier, it's only the start of the story. I think if you think about Alvo, there's one key message, because today you would have seen lots of maps, lots of lists, lots of results. Today with Alvo, I want you to remember high-grade copper and active exploration. This is the board and the management. So Bo's as a geologist, he's on the board. He's also had over 10 years experience exploring in Brazil. I myself have had nearly 20 years in country, but we've got a really strong team with Julio and Luis who are active on site. As our shareholders, we've got a really nice register. The board is really aligned with what's going on. We own nearly 25%, but there's other professionals involved. So RCF Capital out of the US, Sprott, Paragon out of Melbourne, and Lill Resource Trust. They're all professional resources investors that have got a significant stake in the company. So really strong shareholding value there. Low shares on issue, a market cap under $10 million. There's plenty bang for buck here on discovery. So where we're located, we're sitting right in the middle of Brazil. So south of the Amazon basin, north of the capital city called Brasilia. Fantastic infrastructure surrounds us. We've got roads and rail really nearby. I think one of the key points is that Brazil has a lot of hydroelectric schemes. We have 4 that surround the project, 1 to the north, 1 to the south, and 2 to the east. So cheap green power available on site for when we get into development. But pretty much the most important thing for us has been the really strong social support that we've had. From a municipal level to a state and federal, the government support's been fantastic. And that's because the principal asset used to be a government asset. And so they've been really great partners with us along this journey, even though we're earning into 100% of all of our assets. Here's what it looks like. So we have a belt that's about 80 kilometres long now. We have nearly 1,000 square kilometres under tenure. The 2 deposits that we bought from the government back in 2019 in an auction process are sitting in the north here, C1 and C3, but they made 5 discoveries back in the 1980s and then left the project idle for 40 years. We've picked up all that ground ourselves, apart from the pieces that we bought from the government, and grown our tenure to over nearly 1,000 square kilometres. That's the resource that we have down here, and I'll talk a little bit about C3 and C1 in a moment. But that resource is based upon the historical work that was done in the 1980s, 30,000 metres odd of diamond drilling that was done by the Geological Survey. So it's confident work, it's really competent work. We've gone and followed that up with about 20,000 metres of diamond to confirm that what was done is actually valid. But more than that, we've started spreading out and exploring along this massive tenure. And this is something like what we're trying to put together. In the middle, we've got C3, which is our larger of the 2 deposits. There was some drilling into that. We've come in, tightened that drilling up. But because it's VMS, and when they say VMS, it's massive sulfides, and it has a really strong electrical properties. So you can use geophysics to actually target your drilling to a better degree. So you know where it's going downhole, you know where it's going along strike and at depth. So we've used what they call fixed loop EM really successfully out here to target the mineralization and to also save money on drilling itself. And here is the actual, what the anomaly looks like when we put the equipment on the surface. But more than that, around C3, we've come up with a whole bunch of other anomalies to the east, to the east, to the northeast, to the west, and even further to the west over here at Pelicano. A bunch of anomalies that sit around C3. And when we talk about VMS, we talk about clustering of these deposits, because within these kinds of VMS belts, they can have multiple deposits within the same region that repeat, and that's an important part. VMS around the world are really famous for being a massive producer of both copper, zinc, lead, silver, even gold. And in North America, in Canada specifically, there are multiple regions of about the same size as what we've got over here on the east, on the right in the diagram, I should say, which is our project. And these are really famous districts, including things like Noranda, Flin Flon, Snow Lake, famous districts that have produced and are producing tens, if not hundreds of millions of tonnes of ore. Copper, zinc, lead, silver, gold focused. What we've got, we're just scratching the surface. The only bit to the north that was actually explored in the 1980s was what was sticking out of the ground. Since then, no one's been able to put that package together, and no one's been able to apply modern and systematic exploration like what we're trying and what we're planning on doing at the moment. I'm going to skip this slide because we're running short on time, but this is the slide that I want to look at. We listed in 2021, October, raised $10 million on the back of this project, and 2 days after listing, I was in Brazil. It was still during COVID times. I couldn't come back, so I stayed there and through the listing process. We were drilling within 2 days after listing. We haven't stopped. So this is the orange on this graph signifies diamond drilling. We're now at about 20 kilometres of drilling, 70 odd holes. And we spent the early months of our exploration campaign drilling on the known deposits to understand the mineralisation better. Once we started to get a handle on what was going on, we understood that we had to use electrical geophysics to try and understand where it was going to go. And we trialled what they call fixed loop and downhole EM. We trialled IP. And in the middle of last year, we bought our own equipment because we couldn't find a competent contractor in country. And we hired a guy and we brought the equipment in and started our surveys. Haven't stopped either. We're now at about 125 kilometres of fixed loop EM, not only on the known deposits, but on the new targets that we're generating in-house. We've downholed on over 40 holes. The IP came in the middle of last year. We've got the brand new equipment that you can buy. We're now at about 150 kilometres of IP lines. This is mainly the stuff that we use for the exploration stuff. Done some RC drilling as well. That wasn't so successful. But what's been really great recently is we've bought a mechanical auger rig in, and in 3 months, 3 short months, we've done over 500 holes, nearly 4,500 metres on the regional package. So all of this exploration is ongoing at the moment. Because we own the equipment, we bought the auger rig, it's actually pretty cheap for us to do. Here's one quick example, and I know I'm running out of time. That's what the auger rig looks like. It's very common in West Africa and Australia. No one has one in Brazil. We've got some cover on the surface. We need to penetrate that cover effectively to take a proper geochemistry sample. And on the right-hand side in this map, you won't be able to see it, but there's a road that runs through here because this is broad-scale exploration. This rig drives on the known roads and takes a sample, drills a hole every 200 metres. If we get a sniff, we go in there and we follow it up with soils, with mapping, with trenching, with our geophysics equipment. And what happened here is we drilled about 100 holes until we got to this zone here, and lo and behold, 5 holes in a row, all were anomalous in copper, lead, zinc, 200 metres apart. So this is a brand new anomaly that we announced yesterday. It's called Condor, but one of many. So I'm going to wrap it up there, but the key message is we are an active explorer. We're doing geophysics, geochemistry, geology, we're drilling, and we're trying to make discoveries, and that's what we're hoping for this year. Thanks.
Great summation, Rob. Well done. Good recovery there at the end. Paul Williams, come and join us, sir. Do you know, every time I see you, I've just realised that in all the publicity photos for Auking, you have that tie. Is that like an Auking tie?
That's my favourite tie.
It's your favourite tie. Have you got a couple of them? No? Lauren Bacall once said if you find something and you love it, you'll know in the first 2 weeks, go back to the shop immediately and buy another one. You haven't, have you?
Thank you. You've upset me now.
You've upset you now. There's going to be a sad day. All right. But you've had a busy start, so you can't worry about being upset. You've been too busy. You've done an advanced mining study on your copper zinc project, which is in WA, and then you've gone all the way to the other side of the world, all the way to Tanzania to talk uranium. So let's hear a little bit more about these activities, sir. Let me formally introduce you all, please, to Auking Mining's CEO, Mr. Paul Williams.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks to the Vertical Events team for the opportunity to present today as well. As the title to the presentation suggests, we offer investors an opportunity to participate in uranium and the copper space, two minerals that we're pretty confident are going to be strong for the foreseeable future. So the investment proposition for Auking, and particularly now that we've acquired these Tanzanian assets, is we've moved into projects that were the subject of a significant amount of historic exploration work in Tanzania. a company by the name of Urinex, which are now Magnus, did an enormous amount of work up until about 2011 when the Fukushima disaster occurred, and then the whole uranium situation changed. So we're moving into, we've acquired a heap of data with these licenses in Tanzania, and that's giving us an enormous benefit of their programs. Manyoni in particular, one of the projects in Tanzania, has an existing resource estimate. It's a 2004 JORC resource, so part of the program that we're working on at the moment will be aimed at updating that resource. And Makuju, which is more to the south, is situated right next door to a massive uranium project called Nyota, which is owned by Uranium One, a subsidiary of the ARMZ Russian group. It was sold for $1.1 billion in 2010. So it's a massive project, and we're sitting right next to it. We've already established since the beginning of the year a significant in-country admin and technical team. Our exploration manager, Chris Bittar, has been over there the last few weeks and been working with the guys and having a good look around. So we're very happy with how things are set up there now. And obviously, as I mentioned, we're well placed in terms of giving people an opportunity to participate in the uranium and copper sectors. So with the Tanzanian projects, with the Manyoni and Itigi, and I'll come to those in a minute, they're situated in the central part of Tanzania near the main centre of Dodoma. Makuju was more to the south, and there's a couple of greenfield copper plays over to the west near Lake Tanganyika. We own 100% of those licences. Some are still at the application stage and others are granted. So with Manyoni in particular, that's a series of different player lake style uranium deposits. We have a series of licences over that ground. As I mentioned, it has an existing resource estimate. We do have an issue with a couple of the licences. We reported a couple of months ago there were some revocation notices issued by the ministry, which we're working through an appeal process with the minister, and we're hoping to have that resolved within the next month or so. So yeah, we've commenced the exploration program at Manyoni, and we're looking forward to adding to that story. As I mentioned, we're looking to establish a JORC updated resource at Manyoni, but also potentially increase the existing resource estimate by 10 to 20%. Itigi it was part of the original package that didn't really attract much attention, but we're now very focused on it because Chris managed to get his hands on some historic data that's never been made publicly available before, and it's given us a huge amount of confidence with and moving straight into a drilling program at Itigi. It's situated about 80 kilometres to the west of Manyoni, but it's a 40 kilometre by 10 kilometre radiometric anomaly, so it's massive. And we've got our hands on some historical results from 300 small, 1 to 2 metre deep trench samples that were taken. A lot of mineralisation, so we're going to move straight in with a drilling rig as soon as we have the underlying application. We're applying now to get the licence granted. We should have that in the next couple of weeks. We'll move in with a drilling rig, but we're very excited. Itigi could be something that becomes a significant part of our Tanzanian uranium story. As I mentioned with Makuju, situated that's Nyota to the in the north-western corner, so we're right next to that massive resource. And we're undertaking a significant program of auger drilling. I like the previous presentation showing the auger machine sitting on the back of the light vehicle. That's the same thing we'll be doing here, and a lot of soil sampling through that extensive area that we have under existing licences. So that's a more hard rock style of uranium deposit, but with that brings potentially very high grade. So overall, and there's a quick slide here dealing with the copper, which I'll move through quickly, but that's to the western part of Tanzania, based on historic, artisanal sort of small scale copper mining, but where we're looking to do some, get a team out there to do some field work over the next few months. But that's certainly, it's part of the activity, but obviously not the primary focus. So there's a lot going on in Tanzania. We're looking to have a significant amount of news flow coming out over the next few weeks and months, and we're really pleased with having just picked it up in the last couple of months, so we're very happy with what's happened so far. Now I'll move to the northeastern Kimberleys in Western Australia, our Kunji Park project. We've got established JORC resources, 21.1 million tonnes across those 3 deposit areas. The two main ones, San Diego and Dunedin, are situated on granted mining licences, and they've been the basis of this project since we took it over in the middle of 2021. We currently have 87.5% under the joint venture arrangements. We've earned that through expenditure since the middle of 2021. We moved to 90%, and then that automatically reverts to 100% interest, and then a 1% royalty goes to the joint venture partner. So we've done a significant amount of work on this project, and that's established the precursor, I suppose, for the mine study, scoping study that's about 2 weeks away from public release. We're very pleased to be able to work with Killi Resources people. They have some significant deposits, all within about it's about a 10-kilometre radius where all these deposits are situated, and we're putting all of those together. The study's focusing on a central processing situation at San Diego itself, and using satellite deposits to feed that processing plant. So yeah, we're looking forward to presenting the results of that study to the market within the next couple of weeks, and and that sets the tone for the rest of the year in terms of future activities. Just very quickly to highlight some of the results of our drilling over the last couple of years. In Dunedin in particular, there's a huge amount of metal sitting in these deposits. 105 metres at nearly 2% copper is not to be sneezed at. And then we've been very pleased with the work to date with our drilling, which has largely formed the basis for the resource estimates that we have there. Another part of our activity, as we're moving through the time here, we've also been doing quite a bit of metallurgical test work at Dunedin in particular, focusing on the near surface material, oxidised and transition zone mineralisation. We're looking at the study, and the test work's been based on an ammonia leaching concept, and we're poised to start a pre-feasibility study as the next stage of that metallurgical test work. It's also part of the Commonwealth Government's R&D incentive program, and we're expecting a refund this year about $250K. But we're very pleased with the work that's been done on that to date, and looking forward to some more results later in the year. That's our board, led by Simwe Kabunga, and a very experienced team, sufficiently cashed up to carry out our exploration for the foreseeable future. Undervalued, we're all undervalued, but in terms of market cap. But no, look, it's a small team, but it's a very competent bunch of people, and yeah, we're looking forward to, as I say, I think the news flow that's going to come from our activities both in Tanzania and with the scoping study, we're really looking forward to presenting some strong news for investors. So by all means, come in and see us at the booth, and thank you for the opportunity, Chrissy.
That's okay, buddy. I do think it's a very nice time, if I can say that. Hey, I'm looking for the big fella. Where is he? Coming down the side of the room there. Mr. Simon Lill, chairman. Actually, he's the chairman of a couple of very successful resources type people. This one he's finishing off the day with. Nimy Resources, they're an exploration company. They've got the vision to discover critical metals for our forward-facing future requirements within the Tier 1 jurisdiction, and that Tier 1 jurisdiction is Western Australia. And here to tell us more and to round out the day, your last opportunity in our 10-minute power hour, Chairman Simon Lill. Please make him very welcome, everyone.
Look, thank you all for staying till the graveyard shift here. I'm reminded of a presentation that I gave about 4 years ago at a sub-conference at PDAC in Canada. And there was Alex Dorsch from Chalice presented before me. I followed up and presented for De Grey Mining after that. There was 3 people in the room. One of them was asleep. 6 months later, of course, Chalice has its massive Julimar discovery. We have our massive Hemi discovery at De Grey. The point being that sometimes you stay late, there might be some gems, and hopefully we can show you one of those gems. Now, firstly, none of you have ever seen a drill rig. I keep getting annoyed. We've got a drill rig there on the front cover. Nimy Resources. Nimy is a bridge in Belgium. It was the site of the first battle in World War and my colleague Luke Hansen, who's really the one who's put all this together, he had a great uncle or thereabouts who was killed at that bridge and won one of the first VCs in World War I. And I just think that's a cool story. It's not a bad reason for a name. It's as good a reason as any. Nimy, of course, does have NI in it, and we are a nickel explorer. So that's just a little bit of background about the name. And in this pace, I won't get through the 10 minutes by any stretch. But anyway. So look, what has attracted me to it? I mean, I've been very fortunate with De Grey Mining. De Grey had a project up in the Pilbara Craton, and everyone said there's no gold there, and we proved that there was. The story is similar. We've got a large project area in the Yilgarn Craton. There's a lot of potential in the Yilgarn Craton still to be found, and it's home to some of the world's greatest gold production, nickel production, and so it goes. But there's still a lot of stuff undercover. And when we started here, I mean, Luke's been at it for 6 years. I've been with Luke for probably 3 now on it. So that, you know, it was shown in the WA maps, the mines department, as granites. We've uncovered that it's got greenstone belt, it's got mafic, ultramafic sequences. It's got the same rocks as what you're finding out in Kalgoorlie, Kambolda, etc. It's the same age rocks that's in the Craton. There's going to be something in this area, and we've got a very large tenement package. At the moment, through recent exploration, we have identified that we're very fertile for nickel sulfides. The grades aren't where we want them to be yet, but you know, we're getting large intersections, 450 metres, as an example, at 0.15% nickel. The 0.15%, yes, that's not becoming economic, but it is a lot of background to the area, and what our job is to get to that concentration of nickel. So an experienced leadership team, I guess that includes myself, but Luke, one of the things that attracted me to the company too is that Luke has been out on the ground for 6 years, getting his hands dirty. He's not somebody who's just living in West Perth and picked up some tenements and doing the work from West Perth, and that I always appreciate that. And our geologist, a gentleman by the name of Fergus Jockle, he and I worked together 25 years ago, and that becomes relevant with one of the slides later on. He's a very experienced geologist of probably 40 plus years standing. So our project, if you look at the map on the right, you can see the sort of Kalgoorlie, Coolgardie, Norseman trend all the way up to Leinster. There's nickel projects throughout there. There's obviously gold throughout there. We look at it to the west of that, and you can see Ravensthorpe to the south, into Forrestania, which is not identified, Southern Cross. Our area is that circle, and it goes all the way up to you and me, which has been a gold mine. So we're on the same geological structure, and to us it looks as though it parallels that Norseman to Leinster structure, which has been one of the great nickel producers in the world. We have, as you know, Forrestania is obviously a very significant nickel mine to the south of us. So we're in the right area. Pardon me. With yes, I've gone through most of that. We've got an 80-kilometre prospective tenure. It's not easy when you're in a greenfields area. There's a lot of work to cover. So we do a lot of soil sampling. We do a lot of magnetic work, a lot of moving loop, and we're trying to identify the target areas. And we are gradually getting there, and we are gradually improving nickel values as we drill. We have a drilling program on at the moment. So, okay, so over 12,000, we've drilled over 12,000 metres. I think we're at 13,000 metres actually at the moment. So we talk about nickel, lithium and rare earth prospects. We are focused on nickel. But you know, if you're coming across a rare earth prospect, if you're coming across a lithium prospect in the current market, you're doing your shareholders a disservice by not looking at it. In this area too, if it's the same rocks as we're saying it is to the Kalgoorlie region, yes, there's probably going to be gold there somewhere too. We're not specifically looking for it. There'll be platinum somewhere there. But you know, there'll be a lot of other things there. But at the moment, we're looking for nickel. We have also started to drill a couple of lithium and rare earth prospects, and we'll explain why they're interesting. We've also done some moving loop to the northern part of the tenements, and we've probably got some of our best moving loop results with the highest semen numbers that we've seen on the moving loop. So we're looking forward to getting up there with the drilling rig eventually as well. So we've got lots of, we're a drill-rich, an exploration-rich environment. So we do go through and define the targets first, and then we get the drill rigs out. And as you can see in that map, there's a lot of targets. That's in what I'll probably call the home block. That's what Luke's been working on for the last 6 years. But we have added to that home block very significantly. I'll point to there's an anomaly to the top left, which we've identified there as carbonatite prospect, rare earth lithium. When I first started with Luke, I looked at that and said, that looks like Mount Weld. I used to work at Mount Weld. Oddly, Anaconda Nickel owned 100% of Mount Weld for a very brief period back in 2000, and Fergus and I both worked on it, and I said, that looks like a carbonatite. We do have a bit more on it, but if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, and we're pretty sure that's a carbonatite. And we're looking into that. We've got an EIS funding for it to look at the rare earths, and carbonatites have many other things too, apart from the rare earths. So, sorry, should just go back there. The core up the top there is core from one of our nickel drilling programs, and it's showing nickel in there, which is the green bit through there too. So we are getting nickel, mainly disseminated. We're still looking for the massive sulfides. So this is a busy slide. It's showing the various nickel hits that we've had. Some of them are reasonable, but most of them are at that sort of lower level. Now, it's hard to say. I mean, if you look at Julimar, they're reporting by nickel equivalents at the moment at 0.55%. So what is a suitable nickel grade for a mine to start? And I think the nickel world is starting to realise it's going to need to move towards larger tonnage, lower grade nickel projects. That does not mean we're looking for higher grades, and there's a couple out there. London Metals is reporting some good grades as it goes through, but we are getting regularly nickel sulfides throughout the area. The job of the geologist and Luke is to actually see where they are concentrating. I listened to London yesterday. They talked about where they're getting their concentrations is at the concentration between the komatiite flows and the basement. We have proven in this area that we have komatiite flows. We also have gossans, and gossans are a very important part of the nickel story. It was a gossan that first helped discover Cambolda. There are gossans at Forrestania. At the moment, we've identified 3 gossans, and we have not, by any stretch of the imagination, walked across all of the land that we have. So the fact that we've got gossans, we're fertile for nickel sulfides. We do expect to ultimately start getting that concentration. And a komatiite flow, Mount Keith up in Leinster, that's been operating for 35, 40 years at a grade of about 0.6%. If we can get to 0.5, 0.6% through the komatiites, you know what, there's an operation there. Alternatively, of course, we look for the massive sulfides and get a higher grade, 2%, 3%, they're nice. But there is nickel sulfides in the area. So I did mention that up to the north, we've got 34 EM conductor plates that have got some really interesting results on them too. So we're looking forward to moving up there to get onto the drill rig up there. So here we've got, why are we looking at lithium? Everyone's looking at lithium. How long does that give me? 2 minutes, okay. There's a series of soil samples in the map on the right. You can see that that red line is at 0.6 or 60 ppm. 60 ppm were the soil samples that allowed Wesfarmers to uncover Earl Grey to the south of us. So that's a reasonably compelling soil sample group over, I think it's 3 kilometres. So we're currently drilling for lithium in that region. So the 12-hole RC drilling program has commenced, 5 holes completed. So there's a lot of results coming through for lithium shortly. And this is the Mount Weld lookalike. So you can see in this magnetic aerial image there in the black and white, the Nimy carbonatite is in the inset on the right. The Mount Weld carbonatite is the main one there. I think there are compelling similarities. We can all see those, including the fact that there's a dike through both of them as well. So we're quite excited about this. We've got an EIS grant for it, and that will be drilling in June. And I'm just running through everything very quickly. The long and winding road, I'm just about done. I was talking to our PR girl and said, what do you want me to say about this? And I am just reminded, De Grey, there was an article by Dry Blower, and he wrote about the long and winding road to discovery, actually. And it was all about De Grey and where we started in 2002. We went through gold and iron ore and base metals and Argentina and back to gold, and we eventually get the discovery. So I think that's sort of saying something like that. So I think that's probably the story. We don't need to look at the board, etc. So I think that's fine. We're in the booth tomorrow if anyone wants to come and ask us and talk to us. Okay.
Thank you so much. Put your hands together for Simon. Out of those 3 people that were in that presentation that you gave, and one of them was asleep, did the other 2 actually invest into Grey or Chalice? You know that presentation you said you were at and there was only 3 people left and one was asleep. Tell me one of them invested in you.
I don't think any of them did, actually.
Okay, well, let's hope one of you guys pick this up and see what it could be worth. Have you enjoyed day 2? Yes. Are you going to be awake? We've got to turn the lights down. We've opened up the outside there so you can see the outside world. Come and have a drink with us. We'll have a chat about what you saw today. And tomorrow morning we start at 8:30 and we have the government in first.